Hi everyone, welcome to today's live stream. Bienvenidos. We're having, just so you guys know, a little bit of an internet issue. So it may come in and out as throughout this live stream. Right now, I think it's pretty good, but we had a little bit of an internet issue earlier. If it does happen throughout this live stream as you're watching right now live, don't leave the live stream. Just be patient. We'll be back. We'll try to come back as soon as possible. So if for whatever reason we lose Donna and Norman, don't leave us. Just stay on, and we'll try to reconnect. So thank you guys so much for being here. This is the Mexico Relocation Guide live stream. Mexico Relocation Guide is a website where you can find a lot of resources, free resources, and about living and retiring in Mexico. And then once you guys are ready to take it to the next level, we do offer a complete Mexico Relocation Guide, which gives you a step-by-step on how to move to Mexico. It has a lot of different topics in there. And then we also connect you to our directory of contacts across Mexico that can help you with everything from immigration to moving your pets, to bringing your household goods, to helping you find rentals, to help you get a driver's license, Spanish lessons, you name it. We have a lot of different contacts in that online guide. Today's live stream is all about living and retiring in Huatulco. Huatulco is a gorgeous beach city, beach town in the state of Oaxaca. And that's on the southern west part of Mexico. And if you've never been there, Oaxaca is actually like the foodie capital of Mexico. It's very rich in culture. There's still a lot of ancient tribes that still have its influence in a lot of things in Oaxaca. It's very biodiverse. There's a lot of nature. I could go on and on. It's really a really beautiful area of Mexico. And in today's live stream, I have a couple who moved from Texas to Huatulco in 2017. Their names are Norman and Donna. Thank you so much for being here, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to talk a lot about a lot of things today. We're going to talk about why they chose to move to Mexico, like why they left Texas. Do they see themselves going back? They're going to share some of their tips on what mistakes to avoid, because they've had their fair share of hiccups along the way, and they're going to share some of those tips with you guys. We're also going to talk about, do they feel safe in Mexico? Because that's probably the number one thing that a lot of people think about before they move to Mexico. Is it really safe to live here? They're going to share some of their cost of living, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. They also are very involved in their local community. They run a really, really neat weekly meetup for other expats to meet each other. So at the end of this live stream, we'll share it with you guys what that page is. And if you guys are interested in living in Huatulco, I highly recommend you guys go join that group. That way you guys can stay up to date on when those meetups are. So thank you guys so much for being here. Norman, Donna, I've done so much talking. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Donna, and this is Norm. He goes by the nickname Norm or Norman. He'll answer to any of it.
Just as long as you call me when dinner's ready. I don't care what you call me.
I like that. Where are you guys originally from?
Texas.
Central Texas.
Okay.
So it's like 65 miles north of Austin and about 130 miles south of Dallas-Fort Worth.
Right on.
It's right on I-35.
Okay, Central Texas, where it's either hot or hotter.
Well, we have some snow.
It's hotter sometimes. I mean, we could get weather up in 110 degrees, but we don't have the humidity that's here.
Sure, it's drier.
Yeah, it's a drier climate, yes.
So you guys like the heat, like you like warm weather, because Huatulco is, maybe not as hot as the summertime in Texas, but definitely more on the humid side. So did you guys like want to live on the beach in Mexico, or how did you choose Huatulco?
Well, she wanted to retire on the beach. No two ways about it. It had to be on or near a beach. And of course, we've been to the Gulf side of Mexico and we've been to the Caribbean side of Mexico on cruise ships. And we did a lot of research. Of course, I would have lived inland where it was a little cooler. But now that I've gotten here, the heat's, I mean, you work with it. But so we did a lot of research online, YouTube videos. I mean, we must have watched 100 YouTube videos, different parts of Mexico. And it was just something about Huatulco that drew us here. Okay. I'll let Donna.
Well, it started with the beach, and then, he's the one that did all the research because I was still working at the time and he was already retired. So, but the infrastructure, the water and the septic system and everything is more modern here than in some places in Mexico. And you take it from there.
That appealed to you. That was attractive to you, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the water system in the whole state of Oaxaca, from my understanding, is superior to most places, which we find that here in Huatulco. I mean, we actually drink water out of the tap, not every day, but we do. We brush our teeth with it. We make coffee with it. So we don't use the garrafons. I mean, we have that for our, regular drinking, but so the proximity to an international airport, I mean, we're 20 minutes away from an international airport. So that was one of the big draws, the water, the infrastructure they have here. I mean, this place is only like 40 years old, maybe, from the time they started developing it. So, I mean, some of it's showing wear and tear, but it's very modern. So those were things that drew us here. And of course, 38 beaches and 38, 9 bays and 38 beaches or something like that. I mean, for a whole month or more than a month, you can go to a different beach. It's just incredible.
Yeah. And each one of them truly is a little bit different.
Yes.
Yeah. There's some that's built up already for, tourism, and there's others that, I mean, they're in national parks, and so there's no buildings. There's nothing there. You can only reach a few of them by boat. So you can find a little anything you want here.
Right. I have heard that also, that Huatulco actually does a really good job of treating its water. And so therefore a lot of its citizens actually do drink the tap water and it's fine. Now, I'm not a water expert. I haven't looked at the studies or anything like that, but I have heard that, their tap water is actually one of Mexico's cleanest. And so therefore, like, it is drinkable.
Yeah. I mean, we started out just, making coffee with it. Of course, there you are boiling your water. So I felt that was safe. So we just slowly eased into doing it. But I mean, we still buy garrafons of water for our everyday drinking. But like I say, we brush our teeth with tap water. So no big issue.
Now, for people who are watching and don't know what a garrafon is, it's basically your Culligan jug of water that you can refill. Usually you contract the company. They come out however often you need it, usually every other week, or if you really rarely use water, maybe once a month. But they just come and supply it for you. So it's, you don't even have to take your garrafon if you don't want to go get refilled. In fact, it's actually kind of rare. Where
we live, there's probably at least 3 different companies that drive through the complex daily, maybe not Sunday. So it's so easy, and water's not the only thing, but I put our garrafon bottle out on the patio, which can be seen from the street, and I put the money under the garrafon bottle. And then we just come back in the house, and a few hours later, we walk outside, and the empty is gone, the money is gone, and a new garrafon is sitting there. It's unreal. I mean,
We just developed the relationship with this particular company.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, they let them into your complex. Are you inside of a gated community? Because when you say complex, I'm
Yes.
assuming it's a gated community.
Yeah, we're in a condominium complex, which there's like 164 units here. Some of them are 40 years old, and they're remodeling them as they go. We're in one that was remodeled about 4 or 5 years ago. Granite countertops, tile floor, all the conveniences, kitchen cabinets, stove. Of course, we rented unfurnished, so we bought our own furniture. But yeah, I mean, it's like living in. I mean, if you don't look out the window, you think you're in the United States.
Yeah, because of the like everything inside your home is like if it were
modern.
north of the border. Except for maybe central air conditioning.
Modern, everything. So not central, but we have the mini splits. So we have the air conditioner on right now in the living room here.
Just so that we could close the windows and not have any noise or anything to interfere.
Yeah. Mexico, what was that process like? Like you said, you watched every YouTube video out there available. You started doing a lot of research, I'm assuming some time before you actually moved. So how did you come across Huatulco? Like, why Huatulco? And did you consider any other beach area in Mexico before Huatulco?
Oh, yeah. I looked at, I mean, we actually considered for a few minutes Cozumel because we had cruised to there. And I had talked to some locals when we were there, and this was years ago. And I said, how much would it cost to get a house or an apartment here? Oh, about $200 US. And I'm like, wow. I mean, so, we looked at the Cozumel, Playa del Carmen area. We looked at Merida, Progreso area. And of course, Merida's a little hotter probably than here.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's on the Gulf side, and that water is a little darker than here because the Mississippi River runs into the Gulf, and so the water's a little not as blue. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So I looked at Puerto Morelos, and then on this side we kind of looked at Puerto Escondido. Just the names of places that kind of pop up a little more often. So we looked at all of those and looked at the benefits of each. And the places like Puerto Vallarta, which are older tourist destinations, just seem to be a little bit more crowded. And they're more modern too in some areas, but it just wasn't as appealing. We just felt like Huatulco had more of a retirement feeling. It's not by any means like lock yourself up in a retirement home.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people here our age, and it's not a jet setter place where you're going to have parties all day, every day. There are those here. I mean, you can find it if you look for it. There's plenty of places to go party and have a good time, but it's just not as much as some of the other places. So this just had more of a retired vibe for me.
Quieter, more laid back, just slower pace of life.
Right.
Less of like the, people always trying to sell you something when you walk through like, the beach or.
There's still that here.
Mm-hmm.
You still deal with that. But this was designed to be a tourist area. So a lot of the locals, that's how they feed their family. So there's still a lot of the sales. You just, after 18 months, you get used to it. You recognize them when they're headed your way, and you're prepared to say, no gracias, and shake your head no, and you just go on. So
yeah, they accept that. I mean, they're going to make their sales pitch. They're going to try. That's how they make their living. But yeah, you just say, not today, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, or depending, it might be today on what they're selling.
Yeah.
Right.
So, do you guys think that Huatulco is it for you? Like, do you see yourself living here indefinitely?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think we have any intentions of moving back to the States on a permanent basis. We're in a month from now, we're going to go back for a couple of weeks. It'll be the first time we've left Mexico since we got here.
Oh,
So we're a
really?
little bit, yeah, we're kind of in a way, we're happy to go see our grandkids and our great grandkids. But
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to be ready to get back here. No, we
Yeah.
enjoy being.
Now, for
It'll
guys,
be
oh, I'm
sorry.
sorry. I'm sorry, Donna. Go
No,
ahead,
that's okay.
please.
It'll be a little, I think I'm expecting a little culture shock when we go back to Texas.
Yeah.
After
Especially
being
with
here.
prices.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of inflation shock.
Yeah, I think when we left the States, I want to say that gasoline regular was about $1.79, and now it's like $3.90.
That's
Yeah.
18 months ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. You'll get a little bit of that, like, ooh, it's the sticker shock a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of just general cost of living for people that don't know you guys, so you actually started withdrawing your Social Security a little bit earlier. And you kind of have an interesting story why you wanted to do that. Do you mind sharing for people who might be thinking about doing the same thing?
Well, and it was 2017 when I retired, when I turned 62. Okay, I did the math, and uh, I know that people say wait till you're 65 or 66, whatever the number is,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll get more. But on my side of the family, most of my parents, my mother died when she was 48. My dad died when he was 66.
Hmm.
My older sister died at 52. My younger brother died at 48. And I'm like, if I wait till 65,
Yeah.
so I'm going to die. I'm going to retire at 62, get what I've got coming, and maybe make my life a little easier, and maybe I will outlive them. And I can say that I outlived my daddy. I'm
Yeah.
67 now, so I've outlived him by 1 year. And I'm, to be honest, I feel like I'm in pretty good health, better than I was in the States, because I took blood pressure medicine. I was type 2 diabetes. Just I had been pre-diabetic for a while, and so they said one day, they said, "Yeah, you're at that point now. You need to start taking medication."
Hmm.
Since I got here, I don't have to take and I monitor it. I have the test meters and everything. I keep up with my blood pressure. My blood pressure is down where it should be without taking medication. My blood sugar is in the right level. I don't have to take anything, and I feel so much better.
well, we have lost weight too,
Yeah.
so which contributed to
Yeah,
the health benefits,
we both lost in excess of 30 pounds.
Wow. Wow. Oh my
And
God. Congratulations to both of you. Yeah, you guys look great. And that's amazing. That's really amazing. I mean, it wasn't any secret sauce other than maybe just changing the environment you were in and I mean, obviously the foods you were eating.
right, and when you get here, you can get in the middle of everything. Like that's where we're at now. I mean, we walk out the gate and there's 5 or 6 restaurants right outside the gate, 6 blocks to the Zocalo. But we walked. We lived out of town a little ways before, which was about a half a mile from anything, and we didn't have a car at that time. We didn't have scooters or anything, so
So
we
I'm
walked.
watching. Yeah.
We walked to town and we walked back. So that was 1 mile. But we walked on average of 3 to 5 miles every day to go to the
Wow.
beach or whatever. And we could do it. It was a little difficult at first, but we built up the ability to walk farther. And of course, we ended up buying scooters. And then when you get transportation, you quit walking as much. So
we're not walking as much as we were.
Not as much as we were, but yeah.
But we're doing other things for exercise.
But eating different. There's no processed food here. We buy fresh vegetables, fresh fruit. We eat a lot more of that.
A lot of fruit.
Yeah, every day.
But of course, our digestive systems had to acclimate to this area and to whatever it does, what it naturally does to your body. We had bouts with the what I call Montezuma's revenge, or whatever you want to call it. And you have that and you get over it. But I think that's kind of the norm for new people here. I think our systems have leveled out, and we haven't been sick in a long time. So,
and you feel okay, like your digestion is back to, let's say, normal, whatever that is.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I mean, I had it for 2 weeks, diarrhea, and I ended up having to have a doctor come here.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And it ended up only costing me 600 pesos for a home visit. And that included some of the medication that he gave me. So,
for anybody who doesn't know, that's about $30, depending on the exchange rate. Which for a house call,
you can't even get an office visit for $30.
Yeah. With insurance, nonetheless. Like this is I assume you were paying out of pocket without insurance.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, that's great that you guys lost so much weight and that you're off medications, and that in itself is a reason to stay. If it can prolong your adding years to your life, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to tell people that they can automatically do that. So that's by a case basis. You come down here and you have to test yourself physically and test your chemicals and stuff. And you just do it at your pace and do what's best for you. And that's what worked for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier you were talking about how, you just learn to say certain things in Spanish. And I think one of the questions that a lot of people have are, do I really need to be fluent in Spanish to be able to live in XY city? There's certain parts of Mexico where I think that's more true than others. How do you feel that Huatulco is in terms of, your level of Spanish? First of all, do you know Spanish?
We're learning. And,
Okay.
and now we did not learn very much before we came, and we've not worked on it very hard. You learn your basics, your greetings and things like that. And you can kind of point and get your point across when you're talking to somebody. But I will say, from having all of this experience, if you can possibly learn Spanish before you come, and you don't have to be conversational Spanish, but just be able to communicate when you go to the store, when you greet your neighbors, things like that. You'll be better off if you can do that before you get here.
When you get in a taxi.
Right. You have to tell them where you want to go. But I will say, we survived with almost no Spanish when we got here. And the people here are so helpful and loving. They're not doing it for the money. Now, there are the people that work for a living that help people, and that's how they make their living. But the people here are so genuine that a lot of them won't even take money.
Yeah.
For instance, we had a lady that went and paid our electric bill. And I don't remember how much let's just say it was 350 pesos. And I gave her like a 500 peso bill to go pay the bill. So she goes and pays it because we didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes and does it for us. She speaks no English, just we use Google Translate.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes and pays it, and she comes back and she's giving me my change back. And I said, no, just keep the change. I mean, I want to pay you for going and doing this. And she told me, and this sticks in my mind, she said she was able to say it in English. Friends do not charge for favors.
Mm.
She would not take the money.
Yeah.
So
She
she
was treating
did
you
it.
as a friend, even though she barely knew you really.
Absolutely.
And the truth is, she really meant it. I mean, it wasn't,
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the people are so genuine. There's not a facade about anybody here. They're not putting on airs to try to impress you or anything. I mean, it's just it's so genuine. So yeah, they're great.
So do you feel that the general like vibe of the locals towards expats is welcoming?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. There's the segment, like I say, that makes their money off of tourism. And then there's the segment that they're just locals and they're not out. I mean, they're out to make a living, don't get me wrong. The people
Sure.
are working in the fruit stands and vegetable stands and things like that. That's how they make their money, is selling you something. But they're not trying to put something over on you. They present their product and they tell you how much it is. And if you want it, you buy it. And I'm going to say this too. Don't come down here thinking that you need to come and bargain. Now, there's some things you might offer somebody a little less on rent or something like that. But the price is the price. In most cases, it's so much cheaper than what you're going to be paying anywhere else that you shouldn't even worry about. Matter of fact, give them a little extra. That's my motto. The taxi cabs here is 35 pesos anywhere in the city limits. Let's just call it that. They don't really have city limits, but in a certain zone, it's 35 pesos, which is $1.75 in US.
Mm-hmm.
I never pay them less than 50 pesos. I'm gonna give that cab driver. I don't know what their situation is. I don't know if they own their own cabs, they rent them, or whatever. But I pay 50 pesos, period. I'm going to give them, and if the fee is, if we go out to the beach and it's 70 pesos to get there, I'm going to give them 100. And I've had expats that criticize me saying, don't pay more than what you're supposed to because it makes the rest of us look bad. But
I mean, I think when you're talking about, small amounts like that, I get it, right? Like, what's an extra 50 pesos, $2.50? What's an extra 30 pesos? So I totally agree with you. I would too, right? Like, it doesn't cost me anymore to give somebody an extra $2.50. It could be the difference between them being able to buy an extra kilo of tortillas that week, right?
right. We're
So
not rich by any
agree with you.
means, but we can certainly afford that.
Yeah. I think it's different if you were, overpaying on things like rent and trying to overpay on everyday things like, anything really that then ends up like increasing the cost of living for even the locals that live there, right? Like that's when things can get out of hand. But I mean, obviously nobody ever wants to pay more on rent than they're quoted.
Yeah.
No.
So how did you guys actually end up finding your rental? Because for anybody who's watching, Huatulco is, like Norm and Donna say, it's a very, very neat place to live. But finding a long-term rental can be a challenge, especially during the high season, which tends to be November through April, which is when the snowbirds come to Mexico. So how did you guys find your rental, and what kind of advice do you have for others who are looking for long-term places?
Go ahead.
Well, we thought that we were, kind of we weren't pressured, but I was felt like we needed to have a place to live when we put our feet onto the tarmac at Huatulco International Airport. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case. Rent Airbnb, something, you can reserve just really short term until you can get here, and just, everybody says boots on the ground, and that's the best advice. We were here, how long before we found this place?
8 months or something like that before we found this place. But
a while, yeah.
We rented based off of a Facebook ad on one of the pages. Okay. We found a condo that seemed nice. Pictures of the inside looked good. Had a few pictures of the outside and everything, and found it on the map, so we knew in its general location and everything. And the price was right. Furnished apartment, and we paid 8,000 pesos with a 8,000 deposit. Okay, so we paid that online, so it was paid for before we got here. And he held it for us for a month before we got here.
That's risky. Yeah, that's very risky.
Yeah, the things that we didn't know was there was no hot water whatsoever. So even as hot as it is here, your showers can be pretty cold at certain times of the day.
Especially if you're coming from being used to that.
Yeah. And the ad said there was air conditioners. So there were in the bedrooms. There was no air conditioning in the living room or kitchen. So you had to have the windows open. Now there was screens to keep the mosquitoes and stuff out. There's no problem. The problem occurred at about 6 p.m. the first night. We got here about 4:30 and we got home, got there and got in. And about 6 o'clock that night, we started hearing music. Looked out the front window. We were on the second floor. And there was 2 bars right across the street.
Oh, no.
Of course, from 6 o'clock in the afternoon until 3 o'clock in the morning, they're blaring. So you can't sit in the living room. You can't really watch TV. You can't hear it. And of course, no air conditioning. So you'd have to retire to the bedroom.
Didn't have a TV in that apartment.
Yeah. But, we had signed a 6-month lease, but we went to the landlord after 9 days and said, we can't do this.
Yeah.
So we found another place and moved.
And he was understanding, but of course, the money had already been paid.
We lost our deposit. I mean, and it was only fair.
Yeah. It was. So,
huge advice for people that are watching, like, don't rent sight unseen, because you don't know these things from pictures, right? Like, you don't know whether it has hot water running through every shower or even hot water at all. You don't know what neighbors you have if you're in front of a bar, if you're in front of a really busy area. And,
it can be a place where it's all fine and good in the mornings, but that afternoon, it could really go the other way. Or it could be the other way around. You may have some quiet nights, but you may have construction going during the day nearby. So our advice is either through a management company or Airbnb or VRBO, whatever those places are. Rent a place for a couple of weeks, a month. Come down here. Go to somewhere like our meetup group, where people are more than happy to tell you what their experiences and what areas to look for. And, you can just walk up and down the streets and there'll be a for rent sign on some of these houses that is not going to be advertised somewhere. That's the only advertisement, is that sign on the fence. But yeah, come down, find the place, check it out, negotiate a deal. Now you have to be very careful and make sure you're negotiating and renting from the person who is authorized to rent that. But there's plenty of people around that can help you with those things.
Yep, absolutely.
There's, people who will give you, phone numbers and contact information of people who can find you rentals. And it also depends on what time of year you get here too. But, we had found this one just by knowing people.
Yeah.
After being here for 6-8 months, or whatever, 8 months. And we're like, oh, I didn't realize you owned these units. And, you found out we knew the people who actually are the landlords for this unit. We've been on fishing excursions with them before.
Oh, really?
And they were part of the group, and we
Yeah.
didn't realize that until getting to know them. And so that's how we found this apartment.
Yeah, word of mouth is a really great way for you to be able to find a long-term rental. Talk to everybody that you meet and let them know that you're looking for something long-term, because Norm is right. Most of those places are not going to be online. A lot of people in Mexico don't actually publicize their rentals online because it doesn't really make sense. I mean, there's more of a market for rentals than there is for home buyers, so they go fast. And two, it may be just a cultural thing too, that people aren't really used to putting things online. So, and that way you get familiar with the area too. What neighborhood do you like? What kind of grocery store do you want to be close to? Or maybe there's a particular taxi stand that you want to be really close to also. Like you want to start looking for rentals in that area. So start looking for those signs that say, se renta or se alquila,
Right.
and call the number.
You can live on the beach here or near the beach if you want. That is a definite possibility. But you better be prepared to pay the price.
Yeah.
All of those places are either, have private ownership that you can rent from, or you'll go through a management company to rent those places. And by the time everybody tacks on their little fees and stuff, you're going to spend a good chunk of money.
Yeah.
If you don't mind walking for 15 minutes from like where we're at in La Crucecita, it takes 15, maybe 20 minutes, and we can either go to Chahue Beach or Santa Cruz Beach, either one. And it's a nice walk. It's not difficult for a whole lot less money. And what we found was we would rather be here near the shopping where the Zocalo is, which is a central park where a lot of people meet up. So we'd rather be in the life here and then walk to the extracurricular activities.
Yeah, because you're not going to go to it depends, right? If you're an ocean lover and you want to swim in the ocean every single day, then you might want to be footsteps away from the beach. But if you want to go to the beach only every other day, maybe only on the weekends, maybe only once a week, then it's maybe not as necessary for you to pay the premium of having oceanfront.
Right.
So I think that's really good advice.
The farther away you get from the beach, the more reasonable the restaurant prices are and everything.
Good point.
If you live on the beach and then you want to go to one of the beach restaurants, you're going to pay twice the price you would pay than you would here in central La Crucecita.
One quick thing. Right outside our gate, there's this fabulous little restaurant. It's a local, authentic food. And they have a meal of the day from like 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock weekdays. It changes maybe on the weekend. We ate there today for lunch. You get a soup and then a main course, which is usually fish or chicken or pork or whatever, and rice or whatever. And the drink.
The fruit water.
80 pesos a piece. We paid 160 pesos for the two of us and gave the waiter a 40 peso tip, which is, more than 20%. Everybody's happy. We're happy that we spent $10 on lunch. You can't spend $10 and eat at McDonald's.
For one.
Yeah. And that's like not even home cooked meals. It's as processed as it gets.
right? And it's just wonderful food.
There's places like that, little restaurants. I'm gonna call it a mom and pop because that's
Yeah.
basically what they are.
Yeah.
And there's, I know there's probably hundreds of them. And you could eat at a different restaurant here in Huatulco in La Crucecita every day of the week and still not hit every one of them. There's
Mhm.
that many. But yeah, there's the little mom and pops. There's all over town. You'll find them. And then there's premium restaurants. There's nice restaurants that are still reasonable, but then there's some premium restaurants where you're still going to spend $25 to $50 for a meal.
Yeah. Where it's really premium. I mean, it's
Right.
the
And
setting is probably also very elegant.
you've got something to celebrate and you want to, so yeah.
Yeah, but there is that available for somebody who wants to maybe splurge every now and then, and like you said, maybe a special celebration. Maybe
And
the
those
kids are in town.
Yeah, and those restaurants, the food is just delicious. I mean,
It's worth the premium.
there's no shortage of chefs in this town.
No, there's not. And you ask them, pico? And of course that means, is it spicy?
Picante.
Picante, I'm sorry. Pico, something else. But anyway, picante. And they'll tell you, they'll bring you a bowl of spicy sauce, but you don't have to use it. They don't put much in the way of seasoning on the food. They let you do that yourself. They don't put a bunch of salt and things like that. It borders on being bland to some degree, and you spice it up with the picante and stuff. But
Yeah, maybe that's why your stomach was getting acclimated to
more salt,
all the salsas.
That's true. Could have been part of it.
All the acid. Would you guys mind sharing for people who are watching and interested in knowing, how can I actually afford to live in Mexico? Can I afford to live in Mexico? Can I afford to retire early? Would you guys mind sharing your cost of living expenses?
not at all. Now, again, we've lived in two places where our rent was 14,000 pesos a month. And
Okay.
One of them was furnished, and that's $700 a month. And we lived in another place that was 14,000 unfurnished. And of course, then we bought furniture, which is a major expense.
Yeah.
Even down here, to buy all your furniture, appliances, and everything, you spend a lot of money to furnish a 2-bedroom apartment or house or whatever. But we're going to talk about what we're paying right now in this particular unit.
Got it.
It is unfurnished. It is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and I spoke earlier about how modern it is. We're on the well, you say we're on the bottom level, but there's actually a storage unit underneath us, because here a lot of times they don't count that lower level as a story. Your lower level starts the one above it. So that's where we're at. I mean, we have to look down to the street in front. All right. We pay $400 or 8,000 pesos a month, which is cheap. I don't want my landlords to see this because they might want to go up on the rent.
Yeah, maybe be careful. But about 8,000 pesos a month for you're in 15-minute walk to the beach in La Crucecita.
Yeah. And it's rather unusual. You're not going to find a lot of units even in here at this price.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty low for La
They're going to be
Crucecita.
short term, which are a lot higher.
Maybe because they're a friend of yours?
Well, no. Everybody in the unit pays the same.
Okay.
We compared notes.
Yeah. So the water for the unit itself, the showers and stuff like that, it's only costs us about $4 a month for the water. And we pay that every 6 months. When we renew our rent, we just go ahead and pay for either 6 months or a year's worth of water. So Then, of course, go back to talking about the GARA funds of
Mm-hmm.
your drinking water. We spend about $5 a month on water.
Mm.
Propane, which our water heater and our cook stove is both gas or propane. And we spend about $10 a month on propane. Electric, now our unit is billed every 2 months. We don't have to pay the bill, but every 2 months. So I've broken it down to 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
We've only been paying about 35, but the last few weeks we've been running the air conditioner. Our bill will be a little bit higher because April and May it's going to be hot here.
Uh-huh.
So I figure if you figure in about $50 a month for electric, and then Wi-Fi, we spend about $18 a month for one, but we have 2 different Wi-Fi sources, so you double that. So about $36 to $40 for Wi-Fi. And then we have a lady that comes in twice a month that helps her clean. She comes in and sweeps and mops and does all
Cleans
that she
the
does.
bathroom.
Oh yeah. And
Don't you love that? You don't have to do it.
that's $35 a month. It's
Any
only
laundry? Does she do laundry at all?
She does.
No.
She offered to, but we already had a service that does that. So.
Yeah.
Got it.
We have a laundry service. Same thing like with the water. We put our laundry outside the door on Monday morning, and then we go play pickleball. And when we come back, the laundry's gone, and they usually bring it back the next day, sometime the same day.
Beautiful.
And laundry for a month is $20.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
on average, it's about $5 a week for laundry.
And this is picking up weekly.
Yeah.
On Monday.
Yeah, they pick up
Pick up
every Monday
and bring it back.
And sometimes that's 8 kilograms, and sometimes it's 12 kilograms of weight, because that's how they charge you. And I think we pay 12 pesos per kilogram. It was 10, they went up to 12, which is cheap.
Still very, very, very economical. Yeah.
Yeah. We average about $400 a month, about $100 a week going to the grocery store. And that's including buying our staples, toilet paper, paper towels, trash bags, food.
Junk food.
We do a lot of snacking. And,
Okay.
It's hard to figure the rest of it. I put in $400 a month for dining and $200 for that we kind of split between dining and miscellaneous, because we may go out to eat one time a week at a cheap place, but like our weekly meetings, we end up spending $20 or $30 because we'll have drinks or whatever, and we sit there and eat. So we may spend 200 pesos for one meal. We may pay 600 pesos for another meal. So it varies. It depends on how many days a week we go out. We get invited by some of our friends to meet and go somewhere for pizza. And you could get pizza here, good pizza. And then I threw in another 200 for just like I think I already included it for miscellaneous. But a total that comes to $1,542 for 2 people.
Yeah, that's
And we
amazing.
know somebody that you interviewed that lives on about $800. $800.
Russell.
Yeah, Russell. Good friend of ours. He lives just a few blocks from here.
Yes.
He's great. Yeah, and he's doing it. I mean, it's if you compare it, his rent is also about $400. So he's living on about the same amount of
This is
rent.
a little less. I think he's paying in the range of about $350 a month.
Okay.
But his is furnished too, but it's a studio.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, that's true.
Yeah.
Makes a difference whether it's furnished or unfurnished.
One thing that I didn't include in this budget is telephone, because everybody's, especially expats, telephone bills, that's a personal thing.
Yeah.
We had AT&T back in the States, and that's what we brought here. that's what we use on a daily basis because we get free roaming. We got a family plan and unlimited. So we pay what we pay. It doesn't cost us any more to use it here. So I can't speak for other people. But I will throw in one thing. When you come down here, if you're going to survive, you've got to get WhatsApp on your phone first before you come down here.
Amen.
Super huge here.
Yeah, people don't
Also,
believe me. People don't
yeah,
believe me that WhatsApp, well, it's not that they don't believe me. Maybe that's the wrong way to put it. But I think people underestimate how important it is to start
it's
getting
not
used to
used that
using
much
it.
in the States at all.
Yeah,
But you'll also need to get a Mexican phone number if you want to do business here.
very true.
There's a lot of variables to getting things here like driver's license and things like that. To get a lot of that stuff, you got to get a residency and have a CURP number. But just like we order groceries from Chedraui sometimes and have them delivered, you have to have a Mexican phone number so they can call you because they ain't gonna call you on your U.S. or Canadian phone.
True.
But anyway, so the phone is a personal thing. So whatever it costs you.
But if somebody did have a Mexican not land, but line through Telcel or, maybe Total Play or one of these other companies, I mean, it could be somewhere in like $20, $30 a month
Yeah, it's not
range.
very
That's it.
expensive.
That's if you buy a subscription. But if you wanted to go
Sure.
cheaper than that, if you go buy a cheap phone, like I did, I paid 1,800 pesos for a Hisense, which is an Android-based phone, and it's from AT&T, but it's AT&T Mexico. And I don't always go buy minutes for it, but if I do, I go buy 100 pesos, which is $5. So my phone bill would be as cheap as $5 if I wanted. But I might go 2 or 3 months without renewing it because it's on
Because you have the
Wi-Fi.
AT&T.
I can do a lot of phone calls and everything over Wi-Fi. I don't even need the minutes.
That's true. And a lot of Mexican locals end up doing that because WhatsApp is used through Wi-Fi. A lot of them will never even have a balance or they won't have any data on their
Yeah.
phones. And then they'll just sign up to whatever Wi-Fi is available and be able to communicate that way. But if, yes, I'm talking about an actual plan, like if you were signing up monthly
Yeah,
with a cell phone provider.
You could do that as well, but turn on Wi-Fi calling on all your devices.
Yeah.
And then that way you can make phone calls. I've had people, myself included, have trouble calling from here to the States. And it depends on what type of number you're calling to. An 877 number is very hard to call from here, even on Wi-Fi calling. But regular 800 numbers, I can't get them to go through sometimes. So turn my Wi-Fi calling on and call, no problem. I call my bank, no problem.
Good tip. Good tip. Yeah. What about medical care? That is something that, we will all need medical care at some point or another. I'm assuming that you don't have a regular insurance policy?
No, I'm on Medicare back in the States, but can't use it here.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not 65 yet, so she doesn't have Medicare. So far, except for the Montezuma's revenge, really haven't been any issues. But I mean,
we're on a self-pay basis.
Yeah.
If we get sick, you go to OralMed or you call your guy that will come to your house and he's a doctor. It's not just a guy.
Sure. Yeah.
But so it's so reasonable. Now, I'm not talking about catastrophic illness. I'm talking about your regular everyday.
Stomach bug, for example.
So, and COVID test if you're going to go fly out or whatever that the requirement is at the time. They'll come to you or those kind of things that you have to do. So we've just been lucky. We're risk takers. So
if you prices, if you want to get a comparison of a few prices, got my teeth cleaned a couple of months back. It was 550 pesos, which is what, $27.
About, yeah.
Yeah, you know how much it's going to be elsewhere.
Yeah.
I got
Sometimes that.
partials. I got partials made here for some missing teeth. I wanted to get implants, but they said I couldn't. I'd have to get special medical permission to do it anyway. So they ruled it out, and so I got a set of partials made. 4,600 pesos for partials. That's $230. That was the office visit, the exam, the partials, and everything.
Fitting when they came in, everything.
I was quoted 1,800 in the States.
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah.
So, and I know that's dental, and you asked about regular medical, but I told you earlier about my 600 peso home visit. So for $30, and yeah, something could happen. But I think if one of us breaks a ankle or something, we can afford that.
You have the cash reserves because you're saving up every day, knowing that this could potentially be a thing in the future you might need the money for.
You have a contingency fund, or you need to have one, so that if anything like that comes up, you're prepared.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to stress a little bit more, just in these interviews, because we do talk a lot about how medical care can be very inexpensive in Mexico for everyday things, like obviously having a stomach bug, a house call, $30, that's almost nothing. Having your teeth cleaned for about $27, $26, very inexpensive when you compare it to north of the border. But you're right, Donna, like something more catastrophic, if you broke a leg, and maybe even that might be pretty minor, but if you were diagnosed with something very chronic like cancer or diabetes and you needed ongoing treatment, that can get expensive if you don't have private healthcare insurance in Mexico. So for those people who are watching and thinking like, oh, yeah, I'll do that, just keep in mind, like, whatever money you have left over at the end of the month, save it. Because in many cases, and I see this a lot, and I'm sure you can probably agree with me, I see so many GoFundMes for people that just didn't have the money at the time. And, they're asking friends and family. And luckily, there's really awesome people out there that will pitch in.
Step up, but you can't go on that. You don't want to have to do that. So if you can budget $10 a month and start putting away money for healthcare, just leave it alone.
There's healthcare available here. After we got our immigration, we got our green cards, we got 4-year temporary.
Congrats.
And so then we got our Mexican driver's license. We went over to the DIF, and I couldn't tell you what that stands for, but we got the INAPAM card, which I'm going to call it the old age discount. So, that didn't cost anything.
I don't care. It gives you discounts. So
fingerprints and passport and CURP number and stuff, and they give you this card. And then if you want to go somewhere on the ADO bus, you just show them the card. They give you a discount. So we haven't really used it in a lot of the other places because we just don't go that many places. We flew to Cancun a few months back and used it to get from the airport into town, and it cost us 98 pesos for both of us after the discount. And that's a 14-mile trip, which that's
on a nice air-conditioned ADO bus.
100 pesos is $5.
Yeah, less.
Yeah.
So
that's great. Sorry, I think there's a lag there.
That's okay.
For some of those people who don't know what an INAPAM card is, an INAPAM card is a retiree discounts card that you can only get when you're 60 or over in Mexico, and you have to be a resident of Mexico. And it gives you discounts to a lot of different things. The government has different programs with companies like the ADO, which is a very widely known long distance bus company in Mexico. They're great, very comfortable buses, great way to travel very inexpensively around Mexico. And you get 50% off your fare. You also get about 20-25% off your airfare, depending on the airline. There's so many discounts. Even some restaurants have discounts, but you have to know which ones. And some pharmacies offer discounts too to
You
Inapam.
have to remember to ask, to
Yeah.
ask where you go. But speaking of pharmacies, there is one that we don't even ask them to use the Inapam card, because on Mondays they automatically do a 25% discount. So we just get our pharmaceuticals, our ibuprofen, whatever, on Mondays when we need it. So
Yeah, it's very inexpensive. And
Yeah.
and not really restrictive like in the States. You can get a lot of your medicines that you would normally use where you have to have a prescription. Here, you don't necessarily have to have it, but if you do, there's usually a physician associated with some of these pharmacies. You go right next door, tell him what you need. He writes you out a prescription. You walk back next door, and it's done.
And just like his house call visit, the doctor, whatever medicine he didn't have with him that he wanted Norman to take, he wrote it down like on a prescription, and I just took it to the pharmacist, and it wasn't really a prescription. It was just a detailed of what he suggested that he take.
Antibiotics.
And they sold them to us right there. Actually, you buy syringes, and if you're able to give yourself the shot, you give yourself the shot. So
Yeah. It's less of a nanny state, right? It's less of a nanny country where everything has to be so regulated. So for those of you guys who are thinking about just buying all your prescriptions, you also have to be careful because the dosages in Mexico are different. So just make sure that you do actually consult with a primary care physician, or they call him a doctor de cabecera, which is just like your primary care physician. So just keep that in mind, that the dosages can be slightly different in Mexico
and that's very true. And also, the names of the drugs are not the same.
Exactly.
So you definitely need a physician to translate from what you're taking US into whatever the drug is called here. So,
but generics are very easy to come by here.
Yeah.
Generic drugs, yeah.
So we have a lot of questions that have been coming through. You guys ready for some questions?
Sure.
Go for it.
All right, let's see what you guys want to know. What's the temperature and humidity in Huatulco right now? Somebody is in South California.
Right now,
I can tell you that the average humidity is 62%, and I looked it up here a while back, and that's it's not that every day. I mean, it'll be 85 to 95% humidity. Some mornings, of course, that burns off, and it'll end up being 75 by later in the day, but it's still high humidity.
Yes.
What about a breeze, regular breeze?
Yes.
It comes and goes,
Yeah.
Yeah. I know when we play pickleball at the sports complex, I used to tell everybody, it'll be hot, and then right about 9:30, and I mean, it'll be within 20 minutes, the ocean breeze will pick up and it'll cool off. So almost every morning around 9:30, you'll get a breeze coming in.
And, sometimes it's just a humid breeze, and sometimes it's a cool breeze. Like, for instance, today, I noticed the breeze was a lot cooler than it was yesterday. So something has changed, in the atmosphere to make it a little cooler breeze today. But 33 degrees centigrade, I think, has been about the average, the last, which is pretty hot.
Yeah, it's about 95 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty hot. But do you think it's comfortable to you, considering that you're from Texas? Like somebody else that might not be from Texas, how do you think those people do when they move to Huatulco?
Well, speaking from my personal experience, I thought, no problem. It's 110 degrees in Texas. We're used to the heat. But I didn't realize until I got here that I worked 8 hours a day in an air-conditioned building.
Yeah.
I left at 5 o'clock, got into my air-conditioned car, went home to my air-conditioned house, and I was not out in the heat and humidity on a day-to-day basis like we are here. So it took me a while to acclimate to it. It did.
Yeah. There's things that you can do to compensate for the heat and the humidity. One, you can stay inside and turn the air conditioner on. If you're cost conscious, you can just turn the air conditioner off, open all the windows. Hopefully you got screens because there are mosquitoes. Without
Yeah.
a doubt, there's mosquitoes, so you want mosquito spray. Uh, get a fan. I mean, we have 3 ceiling fans in here. We also have 3 stand fans. So if need be, if it gets hot enough with the AC off, we'll put a fan on us. No problem. You can survive.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
find
let
it
the light
safe.
like circulate.
Or you go to the beach and sit under a palapa and drink a beer and have a dip in the ocean.
Yeah, or go down here and get in the swimming pool.
Yes, or the swimming pool. So, yeah.
Or go get a really icy margarita.
Yes.
See,
Oh, this is a good question. Is Huatulco just a retirement spot, or are there other young people living in Huatulco?
It's a vacation spot.
there are families that are moving here with young children,
True.
and there's daycare here. So that's not a problem. We have a couple that's friends of ours. They're from Canada, and their 22-year-old daughter came with them.
Okay.
She has a nightlife.
Yeah.
She goes out with people she's met, locals and expats, and stays out, parties. So it's here. It's you got to want it, and you can find it. That's no problem. It's not strictly a retirement community. There's plenty for young people to do. There's just less to do than, say, Puerto Escondido or somewhere like that.
And, you go to the beach, especially, around Easter and Christmas and everything, and you see tons of families with toddlers and infants even, and, just a wide variety of ages in their family units. And, it's so heartwarming to see. It's 3 generations. It's the grandparents, it's the parents, and it's the kid, their kids. So, and they're all enjoying the beaches together and taking care of each other. And, but it's a widely used spot for vacations for people from Mexico City and other places inland to come to the beach.
There's at least, and I don't even know all of them, there's at least a minimum of 6 all-inclusive resorts here. Secrets, Dreams, Las Brisas, Cosmo, you name it. And so there's people that come from all over the world and vacation here. Sometimes they don't leave those resorts,
Sure.
but most of the time they are going to come into town. So yeah, you have all kinds.
We know a couple that live in Germany, and
Yeah.
they come every spring and spend a couple of months here in Huatulco, and they always stay in the same little boutique hotel, and they always go to the beach. And that's how we met them, was at the beach.
Yeah.
And so, now they're really good friends of ours. So
There you go. Maybe you'll actually show them more of the town. They'll be like less,
yeah.
they'll be more adventurous because now they have friends that are locals.
Oh yeah, they joined us playing pickleball first time they'd ever heard of it, and
There you go.
loved it. So
They might have taken pickleball back to Germany.
we talked about it. She said that their tennis courts there are either grass or dirt, so the wiffle ball wouldn't bounce right in any of their courts there. It's not set up the way other places are. So
Yeah, makes sense. Somebody's very excited. They're going to be there in 2 weeks. This is a good one. Any good ideas of what's the best place to buy furniture? This is a good one because the weather in Huatulco is humid, So maybe if somebody was bringing, a lot of like very specific wood furniture, maybe it's not the right type of furniture for Huatulco. What is your opinion on it?
You can get local handcrafted furniture to a degree. You're talking about tables, shelves, uh, benches. Uh, they use here in Mexico. There's two types of wood, and I don't know what one of them is, but one of them is Guanacassel, which is really a beautiful insect repellent, naturally wood that they make. And we've had two pieces of furniture, a coffee table and then an entertainment center. We had those made. But the stores here in town, there are some that sells some furniture. It's not the greatest furniture. You're going to want to go. You don't have to go. You can order it from Liverpool. And we just found out about another one called Gringo Furniture, and I don't know much about it other than I just heard about it the other day. Somebody said they ordered a bunch of furniture from that place. So there are places that you can order from out of town and it'll be shipped here.
Have you bought furniture on Liverpool?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we just recently ordered 2 recliners, and it took less than a week to get them from the time we ordered. And that's coming from Salina Cruz.
Got it.
Now, we have other friends who have stuff that's on order and they're still waiting on, it just depends on whether they have it in stock, because online you can buy it, but it may not be in stock and you've got to wait for a little while before they can get it in.
But there's the stores here have your basic furniture. If you need to buy bar stools, appliances, no problem here. I mean, we bought a pretty large refrigerator from one store, went to another, Chedraui, which is a big grocery store. It's kind of like a Walmart. They have appliances and everything. And we bought our kitchen stove there. What else?
And then, of course, the refrigerator from Electra. So we bought the sofa from Coppel. So, I mean, there are local stores. And then you go into the store, you buy it, you pay for it. And then a few days later, they deliver it in their truck. So, yeah.
You could find essentials, but if you want something very specific, a specific look or more variety, then you could always go online, either to like a big chain like Liverpool or something else that delivers in Mexico.
I mean, there's Sam's Clubs here, not in this town, but there's Sam's Club, and you can order and have stuff delivered. There's no shortage of places to get things here.
Amazon.
Oh, we have 4 or 5 packages a week, seems like, delivered from Amazon. Very efficient.
How long does it take you from the time that you buy something on Amazon, roughly, just average, for you to receive it?
It depends. And we order off of both places. We order off of Amazon Mexico and Amazon US. I mean, I've had stuff from Amazon Mexico delivered within 3 days. And then sometimes, depending on what it is, if you order from the States, sometimes the stuff you order from Mexico is still going to come from the States.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes when it has to go through customs, there'll be a few days delay, which everything has to be approved by customs, no matter what it is. And so I have had up to 2 weeks to get items delivered, but a lot of times it's here within a week.
And going back to decor or household type stuff, there are specialty shops in downtown La Cruces City. You just kind of have to know where to look. A lot of this stuff you find on Facebook. The advertisement of these shops and restaurants and everything is prolific on Facebook. So you can find what you want on Facebook. But there are some that build furniture and have their own little shops. There are some that have little decor shops that have little trinkets and knickknacks and decor things. And then there are local artisans who do paintings, who paint rocks, decorative type things, who paint cups. I mean, there are so many talented people in this town.
Yeah, I agree with you. Shop local when you can, right? Like try to find these things by going out and exploring.
And
If you have a very specific piece of furniture, then you might find it online. But yeah, I agree with you, Donna. I think that's great advice also. Don't be afraid to go into these little shops, these little boutique places.
and if you're on a local Huatulco Facebook group, you just put the question out there and there'll be answers pop up for you of different places to go check out.
That's what we like about our Facebook page and our weekly meetups and stuff. There's so much information being shared back and forth. This happened to me. I found this here, that type of deal.
So I think that's a great time to share the name of your Facebook group for anybody who's thinking about coming to Huatulco and maybe joining you guys on a meetup. It's the Bahías de Huatulco expats. I'm going to put it up in the comments, but maybe you guys can talk about your meetups.
Okay. Well, when we first started the meetups, they were at a dedicated location, but we lost that location due to some things.
Difference in prices and
yeah. So now then, we do it different places every week, and we may find one place that's great and stay there. I don't know, but right now we're trying to spread the business around, and I think we had 17 yesterday, but like the week before we had like 25 people.
Yeah, that's a big group.
Some people, go on excursions and things like that, or they have other events and stuff. So not everybody comes to every meeting, but it's usually a good variety of people. And we're talking about a few locals. We have local people in our group. We have, because Huatulco there's a lot more Canadians than there are people from the U.S. in Huatulco, because there's these direct flights.
Direct flights, yeah.
So, and there hasn't been very many flights from the U.S. to here that are direct. So it's kind of limited the people from the States. But I mean, any and all people are invited. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. Come on down.
And we may have our local immigration specialist show up to one of our meetups one day to answer questions, and she's great. And tour guides that we know may show up. Real estate people may show up. It's just a variety of people that show up.
Yeah.
And you get to make instant friends, and from those people, with whoever you end up, driving with, then you can plan other dinners and other events so yeah, it's a good way to just connect people. I think it's great. I think it's a really, really important part of when you're moving to a new country is to try to make friends as soon as possible, because otherwise it can be very isolating.
Yes.
And that's kind of one of the mistakes we made. I don't know if it's really a mistake, but we kind of clung close to the expat group. We did everything together with Paul and Sue and others. And because they were here first and they had more experience. And so we grabbed their coattails and we followed them around. In a way, I kind of wish we'd have been more immersed in the local than sticking with the expats. I think our Spanish would have gotten better quicker.
Sure.
We're trying to do that now, but we're still.
You need a good variety of contacts, and getting to know people. So.
Yeah, I agree. When you're new, it's so comforting to hear your language, and there's so many unknowns already, right? So just having somebody there to be able to share your frustrations about everything that's different, right, in your language can be very comforting. But I also agree, right? If you make an effort to hang out with locals or get to know more of your neighbors or other people in the local economy, then it can help you just practice your Spanish a lot more.
Yes.
And the culture and the learn, what Huatulco's really like.
Right.
So yeah. Somebody's from Texas. They're retiring very soon, moving to Mexico. Can't wait. So there you go. Maybe you guys will end up meeting Richard Varela. He's I don't know that he's moving to Huatulco, but maybe he'll end up going to one of your meetups. Elsie is moving to Huatulco. She can't wait to move there.
Welcome. You'll love it.
Oh, congrats, Stephen. He got his temporary residency last month. He's moving to Puerto Vallarta full time though. So, well, Sue and Paul ended up moving to Buceria, so they're just
Yeah.
neighbors to Puerto Vallarta.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they're looking to start a new expat group over there.
I kind of figured they probably would.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good at that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, this is a good question. Somebody wants to know if there are certain overpriced areas or neighborhoods.
Um, I wouldn't go so far as to say overpriced. It depends on what you want. There are sectors that are gated and standalone homes and not apartments or condos. And of course, every one of them may have a pool, which we would call higher end. But I don't think that they're really overpriced unless your landlord is maybe trying to transition from short term to long term, and they still want to get that short term type income,
Mm-hmm.
but Tangalunda is a beautiful area, beautiful homes and views. I mean, the views from some of these places. So I wouldn't call them overpriced. I would call them comparable to their amenities.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said. Yeah, I think people tend to, use maybe the word overpriced or gringo priced, and it's not so much that, it's just that what you're paying for is what the market is paying for, right?
Exactly. The market
So,
does dictate the prices. That's why high season seems to be everything's expensive because of the market. So, yeah.
and it's not only the Canadians and the Americans that are paying for these things, it's Mexican locals and nationals too, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
there's a lot of money in Mexico.
Exactly.
There are very, very wealthy people too. So, and they come in vacation and if you're a landlord and you can make just as much money in 6 months as in a full year, well, you might give preference to those people that are willing to rent for 8 weeks to 6 months or something like that and make just as much money in half a year than you would the full year.
Right.
So I get the logistics behind it, or I get the logic, behind it.
Yeah. And people have their lists of must haves. And if you are lucky enough to get a place that checks off all of your boxes, you're going to pay for that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just comparable to amenities.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to be like oceanfront, footsteps from the beach, you're going to pay that amount. And those condos will probably rent for $3,000 and up, right? Like 60,000 pesos or more a month.
Right.
And that doesn't include utilities or anything like that. But you're probably renting a very nice place that has a very, very nice beach access. And, like you guys you guys that are renting are 15 minutes from the beach and you're renting for 8,000 pesos, which is significantly less than that.
And we do not have a view of the beach or the water whatsoever, but it's 15 minutes away. But we have a gorgeous view of the mountains from our living room. In the mornings, it's marvelous. I mean, it's beautiful here no matter which direction you're looking.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's see. What about high energy cost? I'm assuming they mean like Well, I guess
electricity.
maybe they're talking about, like, you know how in Mexico, depending on what part of the country you live in, you might get a different electric kilowattage per hour charge. And then if you use a lot of that, your rate ends up going even up.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you guys are below that amount, that you're not getting charged that surcharge that Mexico charges.
Right. We're my understanding, and even the locals sometimes don't understand
It's
everything about
complicated.
it. Yeah. The CFE, which is the electric, I mentioned before that we pay bi-monthly. I was talking to my landlord just recently because we didn't want to go over that amount that would put us in a higher rate. And so for 2 months, we've been averaging a little over 600 kilowatts, and that's without air conditioning. But we have a lot of electrical appliances, laptops, iPads, phones,
Kitchen
coffee
appliances.
makers, coffee grinders, and so fans and stuff. So we still use probably more than we should. But my understanding, the breakover point would be 800 kilowatts on a bi-monthly. As long as we stay under 800 kilowatts for 3 billing cycles. Well, I should reverse that. If we go over 800 kilowatts
Yeah.
for 3 billing cycles, which would be 6 months, then we get kicked up into a higher rate. But let's say the first 2 months we're at 810, and the next month we're at 650, and then the third month we're at 840. We didn't go over, so we don't qualify for the increase.
Right.
That's the way I understand it.
It's perfect. It's perfectly understood. That is how it works, which I think is a really important question for anybody who's watching and thinking about renting a house before you rent. And if you're in a very hot area, particularly a beach town, it could be very important for you to ask for a current bill so that you know what rate they are currently at. Because you might move into a place and think like, oh, I don't use the air conditioner that much, so I'll be fine. But if that house already has the higher rate applied to it, then you're going to end up paying the higher rate regardless of how little you use, which could end up being 3 times more than what you would normally pay.
Yeah,
So
once you get bumped up into that higher rate, you have to have consecutive bills below that for 6 months before it goes back down.
Right.
So yeah, a former tenant can run it up, and you end up having to pay for it. So you do have to be careful.
And then we were told also that there are some sectors that are considered tourist sectors and are automatically on a higher rate too. And then there are some meters that are billed monthly and not bi-monthly. So it varies so much in this area. So I would assume that even, say, Tangalooma Sector O wasn't so much of a higher rate.
Santa Cruz is probably the higher, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but Santa Cruz to me is one of the higher areas as far as electric.
From when we lived there.
Okay, good to know. So if anybody's wondering what neighborhoods, and just keep those in mind. Are there areas that aren't condos? I don't really understand this question, but this is a good one. How is trash handled?
Okay. The trash truck in the whole area, I think, runs Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. There are some areas that like have an agreement with maybe the grounds people or whatever, that you put your trash outside in a bag and they come by and get it before the trash truck comes to the complex. We do that because we're not always home and we don't always hear the dinging. They ding on the metal of the truck with a wrench or something and make a dinging sound so that you can hear that they're coming. So we pay one of the groundskeepers a little extra money and he'll take care of us and come by and pick up our trash.
it's not like it is in the States where you see a trash truck go from house to house to house to house. A trash truck here is going to stop somewhere on the block, and you will see workers come out of all these different buildings because we're downtown, so it's mostly commercial. So you see all these workers come out with trash cans. They come to the trash truck. And like she was referring to, here in the complex, the trash truck does not come in the gate. He parks on the outside of the gate. And when he dings that bell, and if you're lucky enough to be able to hear it, which I can't hear, so you take your trash down to the truck and throw it on the truck. But like she was saying, one of the local workers here that works in the complex, we pay him extra money a month, and he comes and picks up our trash every day about on his lunch hour. He comes up and gets our trash, puts it in a wheelbarrow with some of the other people, and then takes it down and throws it away. And we pay 200 pesos a month
for trash, for him to collect your trash.
Yeah, that's $10.
And then he pays the trash man maybe a tip.
No, I don't think that I've never seen anybody pay the trash collectors anything. That's organized or provided through Fonatur, which is the governmental type agency that takes care of the water and the trash and septic probably too.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that varies depending on where you live in Mexico. There's not, I mean, it's the same in the States, or I'm assuming in Canada too, right? Where every state or every city handles their trash differently. It's the same in Mexico. And sometimes even every neighborhood handles their trash separately. So, you know, there may be a private company that comes by. There may just be one guy with, kind of like Norm said, with a wheelbarrow. You pay him and he just takes care of it. Where he puts it, who knows? But in certain municipalities, you know, the municipality takes care of it. In some municipalities, it's like up to every individual homeowner how they handle their trash. So, what about recycling?
You know, all over town, there's the recycling bins for the organic, inorganic, plastics. So, you know, you're supposed to put your items in there. It is one of the downsides of here is I can't say it was young people doing it, old people, locals, expats, but at the Deportivo, the sports center where we play pickleball, they'll have a basketball game the night before, whatever. And when we get there in the mornings to play pickleball, there's just water bottles and the little plastic bags that they get their drinks in and all kinds of wrappers and stuff just on the ground. There's not per se a trash barrel on every corner where you're walking, but now like on the Zocalo, there's those collection places, but so many people don't put the stuff in there. They'll go outside the road and throw it out. There's cleanups around here, beaches and beside the highways and stuff all the time. And that's private citizens doing that. That's not the government.
Right, right. It's a volunteer type of service.
We've done that too. We volunteered to help clean up one of the beaches. Went out and picked up, you know, beer bottle caps and cigarette butts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes, I know that Mexican culture, and I'm generalizing obviously, because I know when I generalize it can push people's buttons, but I'm generalizing and I am saying, and I know this, and I think it's fair for me to say it too, because I am Mexican. So I'm not like throwing a specific, you know, culture under the bus or anything like that. But I am aware of it, and I think it is just very culturally different as how we handle trash and just like, you know, trash in general. Now, I know that that is changing, and there's more and more campaigns about it every day, and the government is really pushing and teaching kids, and there's more commercials and a lot of things around making sure that trash doesn't end up. Sorry.
That's how Texas turned it around, because they had all of these campaigns yearly of trash pickup, and don't
mess with Texas. Yeah.
Don't mess with Texas. And so they educated and changed people's way of thinking over a period of time. So, it can be done.
Yeah, that's what it takes, right? It takes.
I'm not saying that Texans still don't litter, because they still do. You go down by the lake and there'll still be trash down there,
Sure.
So we're not excluded. We're not the Texans, and I can say that because we're from Texas. Or it's a human type thing where if it's more convenient, just nobody's watching, throw your trash down.
Exactly.
But it happens.
Yeah, it's all about education. It's really all about education. All right, I'm going to take a few more questions because we're coming up on an hour and a half. And I want to thank you guys so much for sharing so much knowledge and just so much of your
people
time.
Aren't getting bored.
What?
I hope people aren't getting bored with it.
No, we have a lot of questions. One question that I think is very important, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, is there are earthquakes in Huatulco. Can you talk about earthquakes?
Yeah. We missed the big one. I think they had a 7.3 or 7.4 maybe 4 years ago. A lot of buildings that were damaged. Some of them have been condemned. Some of them have been repaired. There are going to be earthquakes, and they're very probably going to be 3 or 4 or 5 during the day, every day. Most of them you won't even know. The 3s maybe get up to a 4. I think 5.2, 5.3 or something like that's the biggest one we've had. And yeah, you know it. You'll feel it coming. It's like a freight train coming from the distance, coming towards you. It gets louder, and then it's shaking more, and then a couple of seconds it's gone. Hopefully.
It's definitely a different sensation than I've ever felt before.
Okay.
But we also have to remind ourselves that we come from Texas, which is also I-35 is almost Tornado Alley, and so we've lived through many tornadoes in our lives, and different types of weather occurrences, hailstorms, and all of that stuff. So every place has their phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
there's no utopia.
Yeah. When we were in Texas, we lived 20 miles from Fort Hood, which is one of the largest free world military bases. And of course, they did artillery all the time. And then we were less than 20 miles from a SpaceX test facility where they tested these rockets and stuff. So what we're seeing, hearing, and feeling here is not that uncommon for us. I mean, SpaceX, when they fire up one of those engines, it lasts for 20 or 30 seconds, and it sounds like that freight train coming, So that's why, to me, it's not that big a deal, because I'm used to that sensation.
We had 1 or 2 before we realized what it was when we first came.
Oh, really?
Because we were like, oh, that must be a big truck going down the highway, because we weren't that far from one of the main highways. And, it just sounded like a big 18-wheeler truck going down the road, So, and then they're, everybody's posting on Facebook. Oh, did you feel that earthquake? Oh, that's what that was.
So it didn't freak you out?
Not at first. I mean, and they were mild. This last one, 5.2 or something. I definitely had a little flutter, but then it's gone. So
a lot of them will happen at night while you're asleep. Sometimes you sleep right through it. every now
Yeah.
and then it'll wake you up, you know.
Yeah, obviously, depending on the intensity.
Yes.
Right. We'll take one more question. What do you guys think?
Okay.
And then
We're
we'll
game.
we'll, we'll close it with a little bit more about your Facebook group and just maybe some volunteer opportunities, so people can know, like, hey, if I'm going to go retire there, how am I going to occupy my time? They went over their cost already, so if you want to watch that, watch the replay. They did go over their cost. I can go over some of them for you guys. Their rent is 8,000 pesos. Their water is running them about 100 pesos a month, and that's drinking water. Um, their electricity is about 1,000 pesos a month, or about $50. And they are self-insuring for medical care. So they pay out of pocket, which means they don't have private healthcare insurance in Mexico. They're just paying out of pocket whenever they need medical attention. What about gasoline? So what is the like? What do you guys pay for your fuel to fuel your scooter?
Well, it's a little bit difficult for us. Well, we have to do that conversion from gallons to liters and the price, you know. So, oh, I think if I understand it correctly, the pumps are around 20, 21 pesos for a liter of gas. And I may be incorrect on that. I know I filled up a scooter just the other day and it cost me 70 pesos. And it probably had a quarter of a tank left in it. So it's only a 3.5 liter tank. So I probably bought 2 or 3 liters of gas. So 70 pesos. Um, to me, it's really cheap. But
Yeah, very
it's
inexpensive.
hard for me to compare, you know.
And since we don't have a vehicle, we don't have that comparison. Just, and a scooter is going to be more economical to ride to.
Absolutely. Do you guys feel safe? Like riding around in your scooter? Like, is it, with cars and everything? Like, how are they with scooters?
There's a learning curve to driving in Mexico for sure. I mean, you've got the potholes, and you've got the topes, which are the speed bumps, and then you have the other scooter drivers, and then you have vehicle drivers. So if you're adventurous and a little bit fearless, you won't have a problem. I enjoy it. It's like a rush to me to drive a scooter.
Yeah, it's really not an issue. Like she said, you have to learn some things. First of all, stop sign, alto. We joke about it. That's just a recommendation.
Yeah.
It's
Because nobody stops at stop signs here. Only time they stop is if traffic's coming, and sometimes not even then.
I mean,
even then, yeah.
The Mexican way of life is slow and uneventful, just calm.
Laid back.
Until they get in a car or on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Just go as fast as you can.
Yeah.
That's taxis and everything. I mean, you get on some of these highways and, they're all just curves. And these taxi drivers will pass on curves because they don't want to be slowed down. So,
yeah.
But, we do hear of an occasional accident, a motorcycle that gets hit or a wreck. It's usually out on Highway 200 out by the airport or something like that, that there's some, T-bones or whatever. But all in all, it is pretty good. I mean, I don't have no complaints.
That's great.
Like you said, it's a learning curve, and if it scares some people to death, then driving's not for you. So
yeah, then use one of the plenty of taxis around town.
Absolutely, the most
35 pesos.
Travel, yeah.
Which
you meet some of the best. You meet some of the best people, taxi drivers, because if you don't speak the language, you're going to probably happen upon one that does speak English, and then you will also make a friend of that person, get his WhatsApp number, and call him whenever you need to go somewhere, and he'll just come and pick you up. So, and I say there are a few female taxi drivers too.
Not many, but there are some.
Yeah, not many.
They're wonderful. I mean, so yeah, economical and friendly too.
Do you guys feel safe living in Mexico?
Yes, we do.
We were like everybody else. We kind of, and I mean, living in Texas, we were on the border. I mean, around the border, there is some issues. So we came down here with a certain mindset that, it could be dangerous. It's not.
Further from the truth.
There are some streets in some areas that you do not want to be out at night. I mean, we've had some very minor incidents where, and these were, I think, some of the nationals that were here. I don't think they were locals. Were I say teenagers. They probably late teens, early 20s that came up demanding money. It was in broad daylight on the main street and everything. But the great thing, I'm sitting there trying to understand what they're wanting. She's behind me. And a local walked up behind her, and I didn't even hear it. He said something to them, and he went like this, that he was going to hit them in the head. And they just turned around and took off.
He took care of us. Never seen this guy before, but
and then he just walks away.
Yeah.
He didn't look at
before we even realized what happened. I had to turn around and tell him what this guy did because he didn't see it. But he was looking out for us.
Yeah.
And it probably truly wasn't a big deal. I know they were being aggressive, wanting money, but
I didn't really feel threatened by them, really. But it's just here. You just treat any area that you're in the same as you would treat any other area in the United States. That where you live. There are probably places that you don't want to go at night by yourself or be walking. Same thing here. You just use the same amount of common sense that you would anywhere in the world.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what the specific situation was in this case. But I do think there are more people looking out for each other than the opposite is true, right?
Okay.
Like this guy.
Another thing, if you want to see a group of police, soldiers, or whatever carrying M16s, just wait on the street corner for a few minutes and one will pass by. They're here. I mean, I guarantee you're not going to go 20 minutes without seeing a vehicle with police or soldiers or something in it.
National Guard or police.
Heavily armed. First time we saw that was in probably Progresso. We saw it and it was like, wow, soldiers carrying heavy arms and all.
Yeah, it's a little shocking.
Yeah, but I mean, there's literally, I don't know, 5 or 6, because there's a big Navy base here. So you have them, you have local, you have, I guess, district, and then you have federal. So there's all kind of law enforcement traveling up and down the street. So there's, and you go into Chedraui, and there's like 5 ATM machines there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you happen to be there when they're putting money in there, there's at least 2 armed guards with shotguns and stuff like that, while they're reloading the machines. I mean, there's just no opportunity for a lot of crime.
Yeah. And I mean, you feel protected is what you're trying to say, or you feel like there's a lot of presence, at least by law enforcement.
Right. You're not intimidated by them whatsoever. You just
feel
a sense
Yeah,
of,
I didn't mean to make it sound like there was a bunch of dictators running around or anything. No.
Oh, no,
You
no.
just feel
I think it can be shocking, right? When we're not used to seeing that north of the border, people just like openly carrying an assault rifle or something like that. But it's very common in Mexico, especially in big malls, big retailers, places where there can be high dollar items, or places where, like in Huatulco, where, there's a lot of money coming in from tourism and people want to feel protected. So for those reasons, I know it can be shocking for somebody that's not used to seeing that. But, personally, yes, I do think that it does make us feel very protected.
You just consider it crime prevention.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for spending this afternoon with us. And I want to thank everybody who's watching for your questions and for tuning in. I hope that this live stream has been helpful to you, not only just for living in Huatulco, but just Mexico in general. There's a lot of really good tips here that I think we covered that don't only apply to Oaxaca or don't only apply to Huatulco. They apply to Mexico in general. And quite honestly, any country in general, like using a lot of these tips, even if you're considering Mexico among other countries to live in. So I want to thank you guys for shedding some light on some of the mistakes that you guys made. Also, some really good advice that you guys gave on everything from rentals to, keeping aware of your surroundings, treating, like you mentioned, Donna, your certain places and certain parts of the town that you wouldn't go to, things like that. That I think it's a good reminder. And then also just like, the local culture, sharing, like shopping locally whenever you can. I think that's important too, to remind people to support your local economy in the most direct way that you can. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next live stream is next week on Thursday. And actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm mistaken. Next live stream is actually next month. Next week, I'm not doing a live stream. I'm actually going to be taking 2 weeks off. So, yeah, good for me. Yay. But I'm still going to be online. So if you're a customer of ours and you're watching this live stream right now, don't worry. I'm still going to be replying to your emails. But I am going to be taking some time off from doing live streams. So I will see you guys next month. And next month, we're doing one with a gentleman who moved to Puerto Vallarta. Sold everything in the U.S., moved to Puerto Vallarta, did not realize that he needed to get residency, and now realized he needed to get residency. So he's kind of doing it all backwards. But thank you, Norm and Donna. And if you guys want to join their Facebook group, it's Bahías de Huatulco Expats. I put it in the comments if you guys don't know how to spell that. Go check them out. If you're thinking about living in Huatulco, I think it's an excellent group. Very friendly people. Ask your questions there. You'll get very friendly responses, which is rare in some of these Facebook groups. So, Donna's laughing like she knows that can't be true. So thank you guys all for being here, and I will see you guys next month. If you're not part of the newsletter yet, make sure you sign up. Just go to mexicorelocationguide.com, and I'll put that in the comments, because that's where I post all the upcoming live streams. And I have a lot of free resources there for you guys. So go to the website, mexicorelocationguide.com. Thank you, guys. I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Nos vemos pronto. Happy 5 de Mayo.
Sí, gracias.